Oh boy, here we go with these two again. Pixel Broccoli with Evan and Zach.
All right, so we're here. We started our podcast.
Yes,
So I'm
sir.
joined here with I'm joined here by Evan. I'm Zach. Yeah, well, I figured on our first podcast we would just get to know each other, and get to introduce ourselves to you as a listener. So Evan, do you want to kick it off and just kind of talk about yourself a little bit, why we're here, and yeah, let's go from there.
Yeah. And I'll give you a bunch of this credit here, man, because you reached out to me with this idea and I was really excited. So, uh, product design lead, we work at the same company. We've been buddies for like, I don't even know, 4 or 5 years, maybe
Yeah,
less.
something like that. Yep.
Just, all around pretty versatile UX guy, tapping into the AI stuff, which everyone is all about now. So, just kind of been leading the efforts in user research, strategy, product management, all those things UX UI related. Surfed around all over our company, right? Worked in a bunch of different products, and just really excited to talk about how AI is impacting our market and how it's impacting design and development. So that's kind of my background.
Yeah, and I think in our world, like what we do every day, I mean, AI is becoming a big player in our space for sure. And being, I've been a front end developer for 25 years now, and just from the beginning where we're playing around with Macromedia Flash and Photoshop 5 in those days, and now getting to a point where I can just ask a tool to build it for me. And how does that kind of really work? How do we navigate this space? And I think that's important for us and for everybody, inside of our career field as well as outside of that. Like, I've been chatting with some friends lately about like how does AI impact just the day-to-day life? Like
Yeah.
anything. You could target anything in life and figure out like, well, how does AI affect that? And one of the things too, like even in this podcast, we have this idea of a co-host that we could use AI to to actually have him speak when we want him to speak. And we named him Brock, because our podcast is named Pixel Broccoli, which was a fun idea at the very beginning. We still laugh about it, where it's like
Yeah.
you couldn't even come up with a good name. But
Yeah.
you know,
Hey guys, I'm here because Evan convinced
And
Zach
yeah.
to ask me questions and now we're stuck with him. I've been
Fancy
trained
hour.
on vast amounts of text data, including conversations about AI and front-end development.
Yeah, this
It's
is
like you
wild,
can
dude. Like
yeah,
5, like even like 2 years ago, I would have never thought this. And like we brought this together in like maybe 2 weeks, if I'm being generous.
I know.
Like
Yeah, for
you
sure,
poached
for
in
sure.
Brock, you got him working, and like now we just slapped this thing together, and we have this like AI guy, Brock, just kind of talking on the podcast with us. It's just like it's insane.
Yeah, and I mean, it's crazy because trying to figure out how he kind of fits into it, and we created like an avatar form and stuff, and the name Pixel Broccoli was just a random name I think we came up with, right? I mean, it was just more of a like I'm out of ideas almost at
Yeah.
this point, just come up with some random names. But I think it really led into making us think outside the box, right?
Yeah.
Like, the whole pixel part of it is more of a, here's our like our background, being
Right.
more retro and if you will, kind of an old school way of thinking down to the pixel, and it
Yeah.
leads into design and development as well. So I think that really fits us well. But then also getting into, just the broccoli name, which is just a random, vegetable, but it really also kind of leads into some fun stuff too,
Yeah.
where how broccoli explode it, it kind of explodes up and has all these different endpoints and different things in that part. So that led us into building the AI guy named Brock, because he's now got a personality.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, it's just so funny how just a random idea just snowballed into what we created, like you said.
Yeah, like, not a lot of like you
a
said, like, not a
podcast
lot of
about me.
background to it.
How original.
Yeah, exactly.
It is original, and it's like, you don't even like broccoli, which is funny. But
It is funny. Yeah.
broccoli's like,
Yeah.
we have so many things that we could do out of it. Like just the memes alone would be pretty funny. And it's like the roots, the stems, just like that's kind of like your base for part of the brand. And then Pixel is just like, like you said, like that's kind of how we're
Yeah.
kind of pushing the background of this. But it's cool, man. Like it's really cool how it kind of came about.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, I think the idea of this is just trying to figure out how to navigate this space, right? So, like, what are some things that you've run into maybe recently that you're like, wow, that's really helpful, or maybe not even helpful at all? Like, what are some things you've kind of hinted on recently?
What helped me recently is I stopped looking big picture and I'm starting to think like micro enhancements with AI.
Mm, hmm.
I think
Okay.
like, we've been just talking about everyone just thinks this big shiny red button is going to just publish a perfect product to your production environment just doesn't exist. But like
Hmm.
I've just been doing it even for this, for how we created Pixel Broccoli, just like at the micro level, like
Hmm.
we have like a weekly digest for how we're pulling in like AI related content just to kind of get us up to speed on everything that's hitting the market. It's like poof. I went to Claude, just typed in a quick prompt, used Cowork, and we plugged it into Notion. That took me like 5 minutes. That's done. And then to build
Yeah.
product, it's like, I use it. I still use Figma every day. I know everyone's kind of talking about Figma being dead, but I've been using it. Like Figma just came out with Figma agents. It's a little buggy, but still using that. Still building prototypes in Figma. And then just, like, on the user research front, talking to, like, guys at work, man, just, like, using it to speed up whiteboarding, It's, like, all at the micro level, but, like, we're still part of the process every step of the way. Like, I never just unhand it, like, you know what I mean? Just let it off, do its own thing. So it's
Sure.
just, like, each process that we take, that process hasn't really changed. We're just accelerating it. I feel like people are trying to just skip a lot of steps just to get to the end result.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's definitely figuring out how the AI tool works within your workflow is a big part of it for sure.
Yeah.
And like you said, like we were able to throw this podcast together in a couple of weeks just with some of our prior knowledge as well as using the tools that we knew we had on hand. I think I mean that I don't know, a couple of years ago, it'd probably have taken, weeks or months to
Yeah,
come up with, and
definitely.
I mean, we have an application that we've built, we have a website, we
Yep,
have, we figured out, to use, what podcast tool to use. We figured out our sound.
yep.
I mean, it's so much, even branding around it, and we use AI to do all of that.
Right.
But does that detract from our abilities? Like, is that like, if you think deeper, is that something that's like, well, now I'm not a designer or now I'm not a developer. Do you feel like that using this tool kind of detracts from that, or do you think it's helpful or it really amplifies it?
I think it amplifies it. I mean, I'm not saying that we can't get to that point where, like, you feel a little bit more threatened, but I don't know, man. Like, I haven't really felt, other than maybe the first couple months when AI really exploded, like, okay, shit, like my job's kind of in jeopardy. Like, I don't know if we're gonna, have a career in a couple months. But now it's like, I don't know how you feel, but I kind of feel like it's coming back full circle. Like we went through this process of just, okay, let's like use AI to do a bunch of things that we would hire engineers and designers to do. And then now it's kind of coming back where it's like, okay, we still need input. We still need to go through certain steps to like get this thing up and running correctly. We can't just depend on the machine. So like I personally feel like it's amplifying it. I haven't seen like this perfect scenario where it's just gonna like, you know, do what you want to do and there's no issues with it. Like I feel like I've still seen flaws. But how has it affected your career or like your development process?
Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, there's multiple articles that are coming out, more and more actually as of late of the cost of AI, and it's not just the the actual financial cost. In some cases, that is the case, but there is a cost to using these tools and having to go back and fix something or not understanding what it was doing in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's one of the challenges that I've seen in the development world is that it went off and built something and I don't even know how it was built. So how do I fix it?
Yeah.
How do I debug this? So you're
Right.
almost then you have to use AI just to debug what AI created and hope that it can fix it.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
you get into this like cycle,
Yeah.
and of course, credits and stuff are a big thing, right? The cost of the credits, and
Yeah, for sure.
we have big companies out there. I think even Microsoft recently posted that they're going to start to limit the amount of engineers that use AI because of the cost, like the
Yeah.
actual financial cost. So
Yeah, that's wild.
yeah, it's I mean, I think I don't know, I always felt like it's gonna be like a pendulum, right? It's gonna
Yeah.
like we're all gonna go all in with AI and figure out what it does, and then kind of slowly come back and say, "Okay, this is the better placement for AI in our world,"
Right.
you know? Because if you
Yep.
think back to, even in our lifetime, thinking about like, the internet that came about, right? And you used to be you had to go to work to use the internet, and then it came into
Yep.
the home, then
Right,
it got
right, right.
the dot-com boom, and then cell phones and mobile, like, smartphones, like, that was a huge
Yeah.
revelation, right? Revelation for everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, that is just like, just thinking about how to work in that space is quite crazy, and I think this is just another pivot point, in our space, in the tech world that we need to figure out how we navigate.
So do you think, like you said, pendulum, right? Like, do you think we're in like that part of the swing where it's like, okay, like we're coming back a little bit, but you think it's going to then go the other way in like maybe 6 months where it's like, then there's going to be another path that we didn't think of. And then like, bam, we're back into a threat. We have to catch up, figure out ways to use it where it's not going to replace us. Like, do you think it's going to, or do you think like we kind of plateaued and now it's like, doesn't matter what comes out in the next 6 months, year, 2 years, like humans are always going to have a grasp on it. We're going to just figure it out and just work with it, not against it.
I don't think we've plateaued by any means. I still think that it still has a lot of momentum behind it.
Well, yeah.
But I think it's going to be in more hands. Like with anything, right? It's like we're kind of at the forefront of what it is, what AI is, and what it can be done with it, with kind of our world, which is great because we're
Yeah.
kind of privileged in the fact that we can play around with different tools, like Claude or ChatGPT or whatever it might be. It's great to be able to play with those tools and have some feedback there.
Yep.
But I think that those tools are starting to get into the everyday hands of folks. I
Right.
mean, just my wife the other day is she's taking a course on Claude on how to use it within accounting. I'm like, man, what a brilliant idea, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and I saw just the other day that Claude released a new section for small businesses that like hooks into like your what is it through QuickBooks and HubSpot and all kinds of stuff, right? So now it can actually really help out in the accounting world, and I think that will continue to grow into that kind of space, right?
Yeah.
Um, and the more context that these tools have, like Claude, we are able to really push those boundaries for the everyday folks, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
So
So
yeah, I don't think I know, I can't really predict what's going to happen, in 6 months from now, but being using it every day and seeing what it can and can't do is definitely helping me put things in perspective.
yeah, no, for sure. And I was at this conference like a few weeks ago, and the like you go to a product conference and you expect like, I mean, the conference itself was like the content was really good and there was a lot of humility and a lot of people were just like very direct and transparent, which is really cool, right? But like I still feel like even these top guys like still don't have a full answer on like how we're trying to use it, at least for like in the product world, right? So like it and to me it's kind of reassuring, right? Because like um I think the way everyone's using it and like the content they're putting out is like incredible. But it's like it's kind of reassuring just knowing that okay, like we're kind of in the same boat. We're still kind of evolving. It hasn't really just like you said, like I sometimes think it plateaued, but then like I get a curveball. So like things are still evolving. And just hearing like experts out in the market at conferences saying the same thing, it's like kind of reassuring. Like, all right, like we're kind of figuring this out together, but some people might have it more figured out than others.
Yeah, and I think I think you mentioned it earlier where you're talking about the magic button or the black box or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
where you know I think folks think or expect it to, here's my idea, now spit out a perfect thing.
Yeah.
Well, 9 times out of 10 or even 9.9 times out of 10, it's not perfect the first time. So
Yeah.
you have to work with the prompts and try to figure out how to make it, what it is what you actually wanted. I mean, even building this application for this podcast, I mean, I've gone through hundreds of prompts
Yeah.
just to get to a point where I like it. But but honestly, I wouldn't have been able to build what I built in in the timeline that we were on. Like there's no way. So there's benefit to that as well. And I mean, when we first played around with it, we were trying to do it like in Discord or using Zoom or whatever, right? It's like there's different tools out there, different APIs, what have you, and you have to know all of those to make them to work properly.
Yep.
Well, using AI or something like Claude allows me to say, "Hey, we're going to use this instead," and it was able to jump on board and make those changes. So
Right.
it's I can see how given the person the right tool, you could see like a 10x return on it,
Right.
right? I mean, I think that's kind of the beauty of it. If I can take a senior developer and 10x his output, like that's huge. That's a huge for a team,
Right.
you know, um or if I can take a junior developer and make him a senior developer, let's say, by using AI tools, that could also be huge.
Yeah. Yeah, just that learning curve. But, like, you're kinda like the jack of all trades, right? Like, you're, very talented front end, back end. I don't know if you know a lot of back end. Are you
I don't
mixed?
do
Like,
too much of the back end. I'm more on the front end. I'm more design and front end kind of stuff. Yeah.
alright, so, like, your design, you're mainly fed, you're like, you got a lot of experience doing all this stuff, like, you clearly know how to work with APIs and you know how to build products in this 2026 method that we're all working in now, right? But, like, take a business analyst, a product manager, right? Like, where do you think their role is at this point, right? Because like you're seeing a lot of people like stepping over the line into our world, which I think
Mhm.
is great in certain respects. Like, I think it's great to kind of have them see what we do and then put out like they don't have to now go to like a PDF or a PowerPoint. They could just ideate and vibe code and put out an idea and like, hey man, this is great. Let's clean it up. But like, where do you think their roles, like product managers, and even stakeholders, like where do you think their roles are gonna sit in the next like 3, 6 months, like a year? Like, do you think that's gonna change?
I'm certain that it's going to change in some way, shape, or form. Um, but I think what I've noticed some teams doing more product people is like you just said, they're building out prototypes now instead
Yeah,
of being like trying to explain what I want in necessarily in words. I'm able to give you a picture or a
yeah,
prototype.
right,
And I think that that's going to accelerate things too, because now I know exactly what you want because
right.
you've prototyped it. Maybe it's not perfect. Maybe it's not enterprise level, but I now at least know what you want.
Yeah,
And I don't have to go back and forth with you and say, hey, like, is this what you want or is this what you wanted? What if I do this? What if I do that? And it's like, no, I know now.
yeah. So then how would you take that? Like from an engineering perspective, right? Let's say like you get this prototype that paints the vision of what this person wants, right? And
Mhm.
then you want to make it a reality, you want to test it and push it to prod. Like how would you go about that?
I mean, the life cycles could be a lot different because depending on if is the prototype good enough? Like,
Right.
is it good enough to state your case? Like, if I'm showing it to a stakeholder, is that enough to tell the story,
Yeah.
or is it like, well, like let's say a real case scenario, like maybe a prototype is just showing some data or some metrics about a product. It doesn't need to be, some professional level, enterprise level architecture to do that.
Yeah. Right.
But if the prototype is, oh, I need to bring in this API and this API store this data, be able to have a database that aggregates all this and indexes that. I need
Yeah.
to be able to pull from here, all that kind of stuff. Like that takes more to do. It's like, okay, well, the prototype is just, I've already hard coded the data. Now you need to hook it up to the real stuff. And
Right.
that process could take a lot longer. So
Yep.
you might have to unravel some of that, but you can keep the yeah, I guess the general look and feel of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's like trying to just manage everything that's in our tool set right now. It's like I think that's been the biggest pain point on my end is like just the constant change. I think we have enough experience now. Like we know how to vibe code, we know how to work in this new method. But having to jump ship, like it's like first it's Replit, then it's Claude Code, and then it could be Base 44. It could be like what's the next one, right? Like eventually it's got to become tool agnostic, where it's like you're more focused on the process, and then the tool is just the delivery mechanism, right? It doesn't matter. Like you could just use whatever one comes out. But like, that's why like it's so important, like when we talk about design systems, right? Just having that as the roots, I don't know, stems, broccoli, whatever. And like
Yeah.
you have it at the root, and then like you just feed it into whatever tool you're using at the time, and then you just push that through the pipeline. Like that's been like a struggle for me, because it's like, all right, like I'm working in Figma one week and then Replit another. And it's like I don't know which design tool to go to. It's like a lot of, it's part of the pendulum.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I think is everybody's trying to get that land grab. These
yeah,
different tools are
exactly.
just, hey, like, I mean, because at the end of the day, why is there a Replit or a Figma or whatever? It comes down to money. They want to
Yeah.
be able to sell that product and make more, get you more users and make more money,
Right.
but it's gotta be beneficial to them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I mean, and back to that original, thought about there's a cost to AI.
Yeah.
There's a financial cost and there's a cost of actually maintaining it. And I think these tools like Figma and Replit or whatever are trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to very much be, may the best product win kind of situation.
Yeah. Yeah. We're in uncharted waters, man. But it's, it's like a blessing and a curse. I just, it's like depends on the day. Like some days I hate it, some days I love it, depending on what I'm trying to do. But like honestly, if like my 2 cents is if we had to, lose all these vibe coding tools because of cost and credits, like I'm fine going back to Figma just because I'm comfortable in Figma. And I still feel like, we talked about this. There's still a strong path between design and development going from like Figma MCP to VS Code.
Mhm.
That's always kind of been my fallback, because you guys are using like Copilot agents to build, but there's no like bottleneck of like a vibe coding tool in between. You can just go from Figma to VS Code. So like, even if the cost just like whatever, like we can't pay for these tools anymore, and we go back to kind of some of these legacy approaches, like I'd be fine with that. But like I don't know if that's gonna happen, Like I
Mhm.
don't know. I don't know where we're gonna be in like a couple months.
Yeah, I think nobody knows, right? I think it's one of those things where we have to just we're going to navigate those waters together.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
Brock, what are your thoughts?
Must be a good one, depending on what resource he's pulling from.
If we have to lose vibe coding tools because of cost and credits, it's not like Figma is going away just yet.
I wonder why. Um, I don't know if it's because like
Who paid
Figma
him to
just
say
came out with Figma agents. What do you say?
I said, who paid him to say that about Figma?
Maybe behind the scenes yeah, he's bought out by Figma.
Yeah,
Or we're gonna start having to pay tokens just to use Brocc.
probably, probably.
Um, but yeah, it's like Figma's making a comeback. I think they're trying to stay relevant, and they got a
If we have
conference
to
coming
lose
up.
vibe coding tools because of cost and credits, it's not like Figma
He's repeating
is
himself.
going
You're
away,
repeating yourself.
especially after Speaker 2 casually mentioned that Brock might be bought out by Figma.
Oh,
Oh,
now he's just quoting me. Okay. All right. He
that
changed
was
a little bit.
he
He's
changed.
he's relatively authentic.
He's trying. He's trying.
Yeah. Um, but Figma Config, their conference is coming out in June or July, I think, like in a couple months. So I'm
June, yeah.
curious to see.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like, do you take? I took it remote, I think last year, but you went to one, right? I forgot. You
Yeah,
went
yeah.
to
I
one
went
with.
to one last year. I'm planning on going to one this year as well. So that
Oh,
should be it.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in San Francisco. Where is it?
And friend. Hmm.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, keep me posted, man. That should be a fun one.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that one. Last year was great because they were just thinking about the MCP stuff. And they
Yeah.
were like, "Hey, like, do you want to play around with it?" I was like, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so we were kind of on the forefront of being able to play around with the Figma MCP, and it was really beneficial, right? To play around with it early, give them early feedback. They were able to give us access to things.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. And they gave you a lot of kudos on your design system, the maturity of, everything that you were
Yeah,
doing.
it's interesting, just like you were just talking about going to a conference. I mean, same thing with config, where when we were able to kind of explain how we're handling things, and how do we manage all the different projects and stuff on our design system, they were kind of in awe, like the amount of people that are using our design system, the amount of projects that depend on our design system, was kind of like pretty high up there. Like they were really shocked by that stuff, but it's really cool to chat with like, the Googles of the world, the Airbnbs of the world, those kind of ones, and ones that we look at as, design centric companies.
Right. And like it's, we have a big team, right? For our design system, like a lot of people, a lot of moving parts. But like how much of a threat do you think, I don't know, like Claude design or like any of this stuff coming out is gonna keep us in check with stuff that we could build natively and just push it out to all of our products as opposed to like Claude design just doing that stuff for you.
Well, I think I mean it's kind of back to the original, cost and credit thing. I know I keep,
Yeah.
reharping on the cost thing, but it's like you still need to have a some type of centralized design system, within your company, because maybe you set it up where your AI tools are able to leverage that, design system, because you're not rebuilding a button every time.
Right.
Like if you're using something like Claude Design, you're rebuilding literally the componentry every time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense. Like you still need to have those, primitive components or those atom
Right.
level components that you can reuse over and over and over again. Otherwise, you're just going to be, I mean, that cost of those credits are going to be astronomical. So
Yeah.
why, like to me, it doesn't make sense for me to reinvent the wheel every time you want to use a button or an input field.
Yeah.
But there's still
It's hard.
value, you know,
They're still valuable, you said?
there's still value in that for sure.
Yeah.
Having those atom level components.
Yeah. It's hard to figure out, like, the demographic they're targeting because, like, I personally haven't used Claude Design that much, like, if at all. Maybe one day I kinda messed around with it, but it's like, I don't know who the target audience is. Like, is it supposed to be for, like, a product manager that's less familiar? They can quickly mock something up with, like, a design system they build within Claude, and then they can push it out to the team? Or is it like, can you get really deep in the weeds and be an engineer, a designer, and use it effectively that way? Like you said, more on the primitive side. So it's
Mhm.
like it's hard. Another thing that, like, I'm trying to, like, see through the water here is, like, when is it kind of a marketing gimmick and when is it actually, like, plausible? Or when can I actually use this and it be effective for what I'm trying to do as a product designer, or an engineer? Like, I'm still trying to figure that out, at least with Claude, you know?
And I wonder too, though, I mean, is that starting to really bridge that gap? I know the gap's getting smaller and smaller, but bridging that gap
Yeah.
between design and development, like where
Yeah.
designers could now basically build the code, even,
Yeah.
call it a prototype or not, but at least they can start basically designing in code now,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is already so much farther along than taking, like a vector design or a raster design and say, okay, now build this in code. It's like, well, you already have the code.
Right. But do you think they're
Like,
looking at it? Because, like, look back when we, like, Dreamweaver days, right? Like, I'm dating us, like,
mhm,
back when, like, you had these, like, rough text editors and, like, does that even, like, dude, the MySpace stuff, you used to have to code, like, you could do very light scripts or code in MySpace to, like, like, mess with your top 8, like, even stuff like
sure.
that,
Yeah. I
you kinda
remember in MySpace, I would make the whole page blank and then build my own canvas on top.
yeah,
Like,
exactly, like,
just index it and like, okay, everything's white, and then build my own thing on top.
yeah, but it's because you had to do that, like, there's no other way, you just had to code it, and then even, like, using GeoCities and all those really old, like, Yahoo sites, right, like, you kinda had to do it manually. So do you think, like, now if you're fresh out of college as, like, an engineer or a designer, you think they're kind of at risk where they don't have, that forced hand to kinda figure out how to do things like that? Like, they're just going straight into vibe coding, and
Mhm.
you can see the code. Like, to your point, designers are now learning about code because it's giving them source files. You can look at a file tree and see, like, what you just vibe coded and look at the React code. But if they don't look at that and they're just going to go straight to prototyping, like, you think that kind of puts them at risk as like learning what's really involved to build product?
Yeah, well, I wonder though, thinking a little bit deeper into that is like, is does that even gonna matter in 10 years or 5 years from now? Like,
I don't know.
is that gonna be one of those lost skills of like, oh, you don't need to use Cobalt anymore because
Right.
it's not used anymore. Like, is that just gonna be a lost skill?
Yeah.
I even went
I
down the
don't
rabbit
know.
hole myself, where, like today we do everything with JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, where it's like, is the future of browsers like a different engine entirely that AI can write that's more optimized?
Right.
Like, today, the reason why we have different languages for development and all these different languages is to, in some cases performance, but in all cases, it's so that it's, human readable.
Right.
We're building functions that are readable so we can go back later and be like, we understand what this is doing.
Right.
But in the AI space or the vibe coding space, do we even care? Do we need to know?
And
Like,
not unless something breaks.
right, well,
Yeah.
yeah, but if something breaks, and again, down that rabbit hole, if something
Yeah.
breaks, do I just say, "Hey, AI tool, tell me what this function's doing and let's fix it?"
Right. Yeah. I don't know,
Like,
man.
it's scary to think about, right? Because it's like maybe
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where we just don't need to have that skill set going forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Maybe
maybe
not.
that skill set is diminishes, like, maybe you only have a few instead of, the majority at this
Right.
point.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I mean, I would say junior developers or folks straight out of school. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you're going to school today and AI is not part of your curriculum, I think you're in danger.
Yeah.
I think you are. I
Yeah.
think you
I think
have
I
to
think that's a
be
fair point.
I think you have to understand where AI is going to bring to the table here. And maybe you fall into a smaller company that can't afford to use AI, and that's
Yeah.
maybe you're okay in that sense. But those companies are going to start losing the battle when it comes to speed because AI
Yeah.
brings so much more speed to the table if you know how to use it,
Yeah. And, like,
you
I
know?
think that's kind of been, like, that focal point. I don't think that's really changed from day one. Like, it's like the biggest benefit is just speed, right? Like, it's like
It's
that
with
that
all the
alone
cities.
is, yeah, that's the
I mean,
driver.
I do woodworking on the side, right? It's like, like think of a normal hammer and nail. Now you got nail guns, pneumatic nail guns or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like it's all
Yeah.
for speed.
Yeah. Yeah.
What used to take you a week to build a deck now can take you 3 days.
Yeah. I'd
You
still be
know,
scared to, like, shoot myself in the foot or something.
yeah, but if you know how to use the tool,
Yeah.
you know the the gains you're getting from that speed is astronomical.
Yeah. No, it's true.
You
But it's
know,
like I get, like, going back to the junior designer thing, because like I think that's a very common topic now. And I don't know about you, but on LinkedIn, I get a ton of messages from these like up and coming designers that I feel like they're just kind of like putting in AI as like a copy and paste template, and they're just sending it out to product designers at companies, and they're just trying to land work. So I get all these messages from all these guys, and they're just like sending me like, hey, like, I'm a product designer, I'm looking for work, I would love to work at your company. Can you recommend me? And it's all like, it seems like they're all asking the same thing. And I kinda try to give them, like, the best answer possible, and, like, I'm not in part of hiring, like, at my company, like, our company, right? Like, I don't know if you get messages like that, like, I can't, you know what I mean? I can't refer anybody, but it's like, I do like helping people, so, like, I try to say, like, these are the things that I would focus on. They're constantly following up with, like, "What can I do to better myself as a product designer?" I'm like, "Do you know anything about vibe coding? Do you know anything about, how AI is used in user research? Do you know this tool? Do you know that tool?" Right? So, like, the junior thing is the portfolios I'm seeing are, like, still, like, the basic generic case studies. Like, I'm not seeing, like, it's like user research, wireframing, concept, delivery, production, whatever, right? Like, you know, I would wanna see more, like, things about how they're using AI, and then when things go wrong, how do you fix it, you know? Like, do you get messages like that on LinkedIn, like people kind of poking around trying to find work, or is it less?
Sometimes,
Yeah,
yeah, less on the design side, but some people will reach out and ask me, kind of what are some of the things I should look into. But I think a junior designer is without knowing how to vibe code and stuff like that, I think is going to be a tough thing, to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah,
Because, going through and I appreciate the process it takes, but going through wireframes and UX and then design, then hand off to develop and then have to develop it and iterate and, come back, loop back around, right? Over and over and over again. I can now do that loop back feedback, that feedback loop every second now using vibe code.
yeah.
Like, it's like, "Oh, let me try this. Oh, I don't like that button there. Okay, I'm gonna move it down here. Okay. Oh, I wanna use that as a primary button, not a secondary
Right,
button.
right.
Oh,
Yeah,
that should click out to this page, not this page," or whatever, right? And it's like, you can now do that just vibing it out with something like a Claude Design or whatever, and then with Claude Design, once you're done with that, you can say, "Okay, now build it."
yeah, yeah. No,
I
that's
I
fair.
really think I really think the design side is gonna be compressed in the sense that, do I care about wireframes and design process and, all of these, other things when I can just ask AI to build it to me now and then iterate from there?
Yeah, and like that's what I'm trying to articulate back to these messages too, right? Like you just nailed it. Like it's like you don't have to do those steps just because those are the steps that you were like
Taught.
taught, you know? So, now that we have this quicker loop, you can also use synthetic users. I don't know if like I'm assuming you do. You just ask Claude to kind of review your work, right? Like I do it all the time to just see if there's gaps and things I can improve. But that loop gets really tight now. And it's like you can get there so much quicker and you can validate it. And you don't need to go in a particular order. Like you could do that first and then like validate it with a stakeholder later, you know?
Mhm.
So like that to me is still like amplifying it. Like you're not taking a human out of the loop, but you're definitely speeding up the process. And I don't know, like that to me seems like more effective way to use AI. I feel like it's
Yeah,
definitely quicker.
it becomes more of a or I guess less of a designer developer handoff and more of a just, we're all prompt engineers together. We're all, using the same tool.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I kind of equate this to, I don't know why I thought of this, but, photography. You
Yeah.
know, you're, you know, I used to be somewhat of a professional photographer, mainly, just kind of, outside of my day to day job. But, I would take my expensive camera, set up lighting, do all this great stuff, to get pictures of folks because I had a higher end camera than, say, your cell phone.
Yeah.
But now with computational photography with your phone, it's like, what's the point? I carry
Yeah.
a I carry a photography, camera in my pocket every day, and it will
Yeah.
get me 90% there.
Have you seen Insta headshots? Have you heard of that?
I have it. Mm-mm.
So it's like I'm with you on authenticity and I want if I'm gonna get like a headshot or something done, like I do photography like you do. I would just take it myself with my own lighting and just tweak it in Lightroom or something. I know you could do it now with AI tools a little bit more,
Yeah,
I guess quicker.
Lightroom used to be
But
my jam for sure.
yeah, you know the deal. But now
Mhm.
it's like so Insta headshots is like this new thing I've been seeing on LinkedIn. And it's hard to tell if it's like a scam or not, but it's like you just use this software to just take your headshot and then it'll just do everything for you. Like I know you could do that just with
Mhm.
basically Claude or ChatGPT, but it's trained to like, illuminate you, give you perfect lighting, fix your if you have a weird facial expression, it'll fix it. But
Nice.
I don't know, like I'm sure it works great for a lot of professional photos for whatever you want to use it for. I can't get myself around using AI in that way. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but like the same way I wouldn't wanna trust, like, a car to drive itself, the headshot thing is, like, I'd rather just do the work and do it myself than rely on, like, AI to maybe if you zoom in, you might see, like, your eye doesn't look right, like, that stuff kinda freaks me
I
out,
can see that. I can see that,
Yeah.
sure. But I mean, again, like, does it get you 90% there? Right? I
It
think
does, yeah.
that's the trade-off.
Yeah,
And
it does. Yeah.
if it's for an avatar that's 48 pixels by 48 pixels, do I care that it's an 8K image of myself?
Yeah. I
You
guess it
know, do
depends
I
on what
need to
you're
see
using it for.
for sure, right? Now, if it's a something that, of your wedding and you wanna make sure it's gonna be, a big picture above your mantle, then yeah, like photography, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there's those use cases are getting smaller and smaller though, is kind of my
Yeah.
point, right? With photography because of the tools we now have at our disposal. Like everybody is now a photographer because they have a smartphone and, with
Yeah.
that computational photography.
And that's
And I
only
think
gonna get better.
and with AI, and I think, we should continue to expand upon this whole AI thing and with everything, not just within our career fields, but other career fields, but AI in our career field has now become everybody, even outside of our career field, everybody is now a developer. Everybody is
Yeah.
now a designer.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's
now
like
everybody
that's the
has
thing.
that tool. So how do you and I like separate ourselves from the crowd? Because now everybody has the tools.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to craft and prompting skills and, like, at least on the design side, you can still, at least now, you can still differentiate between a splash page for what AI created and like a talented product designer that's like a vet for like 20 years, right? Like you're going to notice, like something like abstract or maybe asymmetrical, maybe doing negative margins to do like a cool overlay of like elements or imagery or something. Like I feel like Claude or any AI engine will do that for you if you prompt it. But if you just say like, give me a dashboard, give it like four
Right.
metrics at the top, give me a cool hero banner, make it look unique. It's still not going to do what that seasoned product designer did unless you like fluff the hell out of it and prompt the hell out of it. So I think like that's kind of still our superpower is like craft. Like even if the AI tools get, which they're pretty much there, man. Like even video generation is unbelievable. Like I sometimes can't tell the difference between like AI video and real video. But it's down to, like, editing techniques, the craft, like, you could still make it unique, and I think our superpower would just be, like, as AI evolves in our careers, how can we still design something or engineer something where it's not gonna look as fixated or, like, as plain as just, like, a generic AI output from, like, the first prompt. Just my opinion.
For sure.
Yeah.
Evan's notion that AI will replace human designers is laughable until someone
Oh,
writes
come on,
code
Brocc.
design tastes better.
I mean, at least he's honest,
Yeah, at least he's honest. But man, like such great topics we could be unpacking in this podcast. And I mean, I went into thinking about like, hey, how's AI affect, us because we know it so closely.
Sure.
But I think, part of these future episodes, we should talk about like how's AI affect the everyday world? Like
Yeah.
could be anything, right? I mean, even
Yeah.
down to, figuring out using AI for, painting, a painting on the wall or, figuring out what color you want to do in this room or, all that kind of stuff. It's like it can change everything. And if you're like in that digital space, like AI is really, really going, like, I think it could change everybody's kind of workflow going forward.
That's a good one, man. Maybe for our next one, something more tangible, like how, it's affecting more physical things, like which is I never really thought about it like that. That's one way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
you mentioned briefly about like, cars and driving and stuff, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like, could it be in only a few years, like, we don't drive anymore? And it's
For
like, you're a
planes,
rebel for yeah,
like
yeah.
planes are pretty automated.
Yeah, I mean, well, with GPS and stuff, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and maybe we could even talk about, bringing in experts into if we get into those kind of topics, maybe they can help us, with that kind of world since it's not
Yeah.
our, intimate world that we deal with every day. But I think, it's crazy because everything that AI knows today is what we've built over the last, 20, 30 years on the internet. Like
Yeah.
that information has now been plugged into AI and we've kind of it's a snowball effect, right? We've now snowballed it into AI. And
Right.
because it has all the information, it knows how to look back and do those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Bingo.
but, um, but yeah, man, I mean, honestly, I think this is, a great first introduction episode to kind of get to know you, see how we're gonna vibe off each other when it comes to these discussions, and look to the audience to kind of come up with some new ideas for us to kind of dive into. And even if it's something we don't know anything about, if it's kind of
Yep.
like anything in that AI space and how it could be affecting those things,
Yeah.
um, let us know. I think it could be quite interesting, even down to crazy things like we talked about cars and boats and planes, but it could also be like, how's AI affecting politics or something crazy? I don't know,
Oh
right?
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
or wars or all those things, right? It's like
Yeah. It's
it's
infused everywhere. Like I want to be educated, man. Like we talked earlier. I'm happy to be the dumbest person in the room just to get some insight on like how other people are using it and how it's affecting things outside of our field. Like
for
can't get
sure,
enough of
yeah.
that.
And I think that's important. Like we're not the experts here.
Yeah.
I certainly don't call myself an expert in this space. But I've been around technology for quite a long time, so I've seen
Yeah.
it kind of evolve and trying to figure out ways to navigate those waters. And hopefully that brings a little bit to the table here, and we'll
Yeah.
continue to have those discussions. So
Yeah. Definitely, man. Well, this was a awesome first episode, man. Getting to just kind of talk everything out with you and Brock occasionally when he's not being rude. But
he's always screwed, right? I mean, that's Brock for us.
yeah. Yeah,
Apparently,
man.
he's got something to say.
I'm not being rude. Someone else is having an existential crisis about how dumb they are in conversation with me and Evan.
Damn, brutal.
Well, I think that just that ends our episode right there.
That's it, man. Thank you, Brock.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Take some broccoli, man. Good one.
That's it.
I'm not being rude. Someone else is having an existential crisis about how dumb they are in conversation with me and Evan.
Ugh.
All right. Roll credits. Good stuff.
Nice.
Good stuff, man.